part of the public anger is because of the mismanagement of resources, the failure of the government to deliver on so many fronts, development fronts. Now, I want to ask you, what is the likely political fallout of this? There was a comment made by Mamata Banerjee this morning that I will continue to oppose, which means that she'll remain in the coalition and keep on opposing such things. It's quite an inconsequential kind of a statement that I will continue to oppose. So what do you think will be the political fallout of this?
I still think that this process of consensus building and also manipulation is still a black box, at least for me, because the same part of the statement which I read was that if people do not mind, I will happily withdraw support. This is what Mamata Banerjee has been reported to say. Now the thing is that when we are talking about people's anger and the depth of its rationale, we still have to consider that people's anger is because of the immediate shocks that they face, and it is magnified greatly by the information that is being churned out continuously by the media. But as far as the political fallout of this is concerned, the parliament, within the parliament and the parliamentary dynamics, what will happen to this government depends on the government's ability to manipulate its way to safety for these 2 years, or either way it depends on the opposition's ability to sustain the credibility crisis that the government has.
Will there be a rollback?
No, I would like to offer a different point of view on this, because I believe that economic reforms in any country, it's a painful process, it's not easy. In China also it caused several problems, displacement of huge number of people from cities, the reconstruction thing. But when the people are going through sufferings, then again there are rewards. That is the benefits of economic reforms. Unfortunately in India, we fail to generate consensus that if we want economic reforms, if we want economic growth and a better life for all our citizens, then we have to pay some price. We are not sure what price we are going to pay. We are not sure who is going to pay price. We have always burdened this price towards the less fortunate, to the rural areas, and now then, before people earn what they deserve, we started giving them for free. So when you give things for free, or we give things at subsidized rate, or you then people start believing that it is their birthright to get these things at free, and so when the government is not able to keep its promise, or is not able to deliver all these things at free of cost or at highly subsidized rate, then the anger of people explodes, and that can cause, because anti-incumbency factor in India is has been visible all this time. So we might see in the short term, I don't know what will be the fallout of this. Maybe because of the inflation, it is less likely that the government will fall, because the political parties, the ruling coalition, they will rather consolidate behind the government, because they are afraid that if there are midterm elections, then there are zero chances of them to coming back to power.
Correct.
So that political survival will be ensured, because I don't think the coalition support, they will do their they will do some kind of arm twisting, but they will not withdraw support from the government. But if with other sides, that is, if economic situation worsens further, or if the court intervenes in the case of Colgate and ask government to, or ask investigative agencies to file a charge sheet, then these kind of things may cause fall of government. But again, it will be extremely difficult for any new coalition or political party which will come into power to take country back to the trajectory of development, because again the people who will be electing these political parties, there will be tremendous pressure to continue with the dole out scheme, and then you will need a strong leadership who will tell people that look,
It is not feasible.
it is not feasible, you have to work hard, you have to earn your benefits that you are getting. And that's why I believe in short term the India will continue to go through this kind of crisis, even if there is fall of government.
I agree with Anay in totality, but I do not agree to the attribution. Now the thing is, we have to understand that our consumer economy and our socio-economics are people who consume and who produce at the same time. are not like the Europeans who will sit idle on welfare schemes. They have very valid questions as far as, or the disillusion is very valid when we speak about why am I being forced to dole out so much for these entitlements? I am a consumer, but I am equally I am working and I am producing for the economy. But when a structure has been built where there is a subsidized net of things which is provided to the citizens within a system, the problem has become when the supply of, or when the structuration of things which are required, means you use products but you sustain in an environment which is made up of infrastructure. When that is not made, you have the crisis of using those products sustainably. So when that doesn't happen, the people will revolt because that cycle is not getting completed and it is not instability.
No, I partially disagree here, because what I think is in India still, even if the government is pushing forward so many dole out schemes, that money is not going directly from the pockets of ordinary people, like it is happening in US or in Europe, where the tax rates are very high and tax evasion is still in India. Very few people are paying income tax. Indirect taxes are going from hitting the pocket of the people, but there is no realization as such that I am actually paying for these kind of welfare schemes. Secondly, even if the welfare schemes are allowed, they are not providing real benefits. Like when the healthcare scheme is announced in US, it means that mandatory healthcare or very high quality of healthcare services are actually provided to people. In India, unfortunately, the schemes are announced and hardly few people get any quality benefits out of it. But still, people don't realize that if there is a right to education, if there is a right to healthcare, if there is a right to employment, then what should be the minimum standard of things that you should be getting?
Absolutely.
That people have not realized yet in totality. What is happening is when you give things for free to people, then suddenly people realize what they want to, what they deserve or what they want to get, and you create the aspirations among them. And when you don't provide up to that standard, or then you fail to keep that standard going up sustainably, then people will start revolting. But still, unfortunately, a large section of Indian population are not aware, are not sensitized about what their rights are as citizens, what they should get if they are paying taxes, then what quality of service, what kind of services they should be getting from the government. But eventually people will wake up because of increasing use of social media and the combination of media. People will start asking these questions and then government will be really under pressure. But as of now it is not affecting, or as of now it is not forcing people to revolt, as we have seen in several European countries. When particularly in Greece or particularly in Italy, when their benefits were cut, suddenly the whole society came into the street because they got benefited for several years. That is not happened in India. The pension schemes and so other schemes, particularly for elderly people, particularly for vulnerable people, they are not actually delivering benefits. So
I think there is a
And we
fundamental,
have also not seen a movement like in Israel against rise in prices.
because there is a fundamental difference here in our reactions. Now the thing is, even if the media, through the media, we have come to know that there are these schemes. For example, the National Old Age Pension Scheme and the recent scheme about medical insurance or medical compensation, which was named under our past Prime Minister. The thing is that actually the implementation is so bad that many people, like I said, do not know about these schemes. And somewhere our inherent nature is to adjust within the means we have. So all I am trying to say is that whatever political change will take place, or whatever political status quo which will be maintained, will be due to majorly the actions and the dynamics within the political fraternity, is what I mean.
But what has changed in the last 1 year is what we have seen in the television debates, particularly about inflation. What we did not see so far is how people have started questioning, because of the increasing use of social media and increasing awareness that they have. Earlier, at the time of inflation, people did not used to question politicians. Now, many people started asking questions like, if we have to sacrifice many of the things for the sake of nation, for the development of the nation, because of the global crisis and other things, then why politicians are not sacrificing? Why the political class still enjoys very high amount of salary and so many allowances like free air tickets and train tickets and internet and telephone, and so why they are not ready to cut there? And when this voice will get louder and louder through social media, then it will put politicians under the government under pressure that this kind of party cannot go forever, or you cannot give alibis of these things are happening because of the crisis in Europe or in
Correct.
Greece or in these things, because people, you cannot stop people from asking questions anymore. So that is the change that you are seeing in this particular time.
I think let me just mention one point here about the structure of our political and economic governance. We have 3 tiers of implementation. But I asked Anay, due to my limited education, about why prices of petroleum and petroleum products are more in Mumbai than in other cities. It is the local taxes which are levied, and here what is happening is where we have responsibilities that are allotted to the different tiers of governance, and where there is no independence in or freedom of discretion of the leadership of the particular government to implement the developmental schemes or to implement governance programs, because of tight funds coming, because of this determinism by this huge giant which is the planning commission. Then there will be a crisis where the government of the state will pass the buck to the government of the center. The government of the center will say that prior to 2004 there was this issue where social sector spending on health and education wasn't happening. That's why we had to centralize the financing and we had to give tight funds. So where will local governance take place? Today we are fast urbanizing and we require our cities to have efficient administration. Otherwise, things will not be sustained.
I differ a bit on this particular point, and rather need to raise some issues that were raised in television debates. Like every time there is a price hike in diesel or petrol, either the opposition parties or the news anchors ask this question to government, like why you are not withdrawing the duties, the excise duty and
Correct.
the local taxes on the petrol. But there we have to take into consideration the compulsions of the government. Unfortunately, because there are no tax reforms as they should have been, or there is no systematic distribution of revenues between center and states and the local bodies. The taxes on petrol is like a milk cow that each government considers, and
Correct.
that is the sure shot revenue that the governments are going to get. So when even if the government, I mean in the state there is a different political party, or in the local government there is a different political party, and it is opposing the central government's hike in the petrol price, it very rarely shows courage to reduce the local taxes or the taxes that are under its control.
Correct.
Because that many
They are
things
cash strapped.
many things are planned based on that revenues.
Correct.
And when
Of
that
course.
revenues are not when you cut those revenues, many other projects of the government in education, in health, in even giving extra salaries, that affects. So that is not happening. So this debate on diesel prices is not about whether the government should react by cutting taxes to the petrol. That is a major, no doubt. But in the long term, if we have to achieve energy security and see that the prices of oil and gas remain stable, then we also have to give equal importance of sourcing the crude sources, like to provide for our energy security, then to provide for renewables, to make investments in renewables, and thirdly, we need to have prudence in economy, because we cannot spend more than what we earn. And when we are doing so, then particularly in the times of crisis, like what we were talking yesterday, the system might not work, and that's a real challenge that I feel.
Yeah, I also feel that, see, prudence is something that they are not showing at all in the way they handle their finances. But also when you say that they are not able to reduce duties because that money is already spoken for, at junctures like that, it becomes all the more vexing for people that there is so much corruption. Because corruption is a leakage of resources from the system. So, and day by day we see that corruption accounts for a huge amount of leakage from the system. Then the ire of the people is that can't they plug this leakage so that they can reduce the taxes and reduce some burden on the people.
And this is true that somehow there is huge amount of opaqueness in the functioning of
Yes.
both state and private sector oil and gas companies.
Apart from all this, there's also wastage. We don't use our resources in the
we
most efficient
we
manner.
are always told that the public sector companies are losing this many thousand crores every day, or if we don't increase prices they will lose this much of money. But how much are their operational costs,
Yes.
how much the revenues, and how much I mean, you look at the salaries, you look at the benefits that the
Yeah. And the
employees,
wastage.
that is wastage like this is. But question is, if you are a public sector company and you are selling the national asset to people, or you are selling something that is important commodity to people, then what are you entitled to have that kind of fat salaries and bonuses and facilities that you enjoy, and often they are far higher than the salaries of the public sector, other
Yes.
public sector companies, or
And
the
government
government,
servants,
or even
yeah.
private sector companies. So unless there is increased amount of transparency and accountability,
Yes.
then, but so far people, all these oil and gas things are so complex that ordinary people and even many of the experts don't understand them well, and so they are very simplistic arguments like the losses of public sector oil companies are to be reduced are put forth. But I think these kind of arguments will not last
It is
in the
species.
long term. Yeah.
I will lament about one thing as far as prudence of spending is concerned, of public spending is concerned. Today there is a reverse current because of this entire crony capitalism opinion that has developed, that the private sector is also not mending its ways, and it has borrowed the qualities of rent seeking and bureaucratic behavior from the public sector, right since public private partnerships have started. So the thing is, when you want to increase your capacity building, the speed of your capacity building, we are getting into debates whether PPP is good or not, or whether public should take care of this sector completely or not. But we are forgetting that we are lacking the models of capacity building. What is the best model? And somewhere that research needs to take place, and it needs to be translated into articles and into informations which are more understandable to the public, so that popular opinion can develop on this issue.
Thank you.
Yes, just to summarize, I would say that now what should people do? I mean, what we are seeing is like we are going step by step, like about in the name of social justice, what policies were followed, like that kind of policies are being taking place in the name of economic justice. And in a country like India, where the large population of youth, where every year more than 10 million people are coming to the job market, and the aspirations of people, not just in cities, not just in metro cities, but even in villages, they have increased. Everyone wants to have a good life, and want to see a stable future for their children. Then these kind of arguments that things are happening because of international crisis, or we are trying our best and we are committed to give social justice and that's why things are not moving up, will not last long, and rather they will halt the pace of economic reforms, and even they will puncture the India story that we have been talking about.
India growth story.
The India growth story or India emergence story that we are talking about. So I believe that even on the side of media, there is greater need for sensational, instead of doing sensational journalism, we have to do sensitive journalism, because often the news reports are misleading. When there is price rise, the media tells stories like how it is, what rates it has in South Asian countries or in African countries, and how we are paying expensive. But all these things are taken into consideration from the Indian context, and what kind of economic model India can afford in the short term and in the long term. Very healthy and very serious economic debates are required to take place on these issues. Unfortunately, are not happening. We are very reactionary to the serious issues like hike in the prices of petrol and diesel. And so I think it is our duty as a thinking citizens of this country to put up our thoughts in a way that it will help creating sound economic debates in this country. And we believe that if we talk these issues more openly and more honestly, then I believe that we will be able to create an environment or an atmosphere where economic reforms will be supported and will be understood and will be accepted by the people.
By the
If that doesn't happen, then we will keep on muddling all the time.
Was that record wala button?